All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, the new class for the Pro Football Hall of Fame has been announced, and it is a stellar class. You listen to the names in this list: Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, Calvin Johnson, John Lynch, Drew Pearson, Bill Nunn, Alan Faneca, and Tom Flores. And of course, for quarterback Peyton Manning, it was a no-brainer. You're talking about a guy who was the first overall pick of the 1998 NFL Draft, and he lived up to the hype as he helped the Indianapolis Colts win a Super Bowl. He also helped the Denver Broncos win a Super Bowl. And in the process, he was one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it, regardless of the era. You look at defensive back Charles Woodson. Woodson was in the same draft class with Manning. He went fourth overall to the Oakland Raiders. He helped the Raiders get to the Super Bowl at the end of the 2002 NFL season. He also won a Super Bowl as a member of the Green Bay Packers in 2010. And you look at Woodson's career, started off as a corner, one of the best to have ever done it. Later in his career, when he lost a step, he converted to safety. This is a guy, he's been Defensive Player of the Year, multi-time Pro Bowler, great hands, great cover skills. And I would tell any youngster that is out there who's striving to be a cover corner in the National Football League, go watch some of the game film for Charles Woodson, because that's how it's done. You look at wide receiver Calvin Johnson, and I know that there was some skepticism due to the fact that he retired young. But you look at what he did in those years with the Detroit Lions. I mean, this guy had nearly 2,000 yards receiving in a season. He was a freak of nature. He was a guy that this side of Randy Moss, I never saw a wide receiver who could consistently beat triple coverage like Calvin Johnson did. He was a freak, 6'5", 230, ran like a gazelle. He was strong. He knew how to box out. He would go over the middle. He could take it deep, and it was just a pleasure to watch Calvin Johnson play every Sunday. John Lynch, I'm happy that he finally got in, another member of that Tampa Bay Bucs defense. Derek Brooks is already in Canton, as is Warren Sapp, and now the next guy on that list is John Lynch, one of the better safeties of his era. He could play the pass, but he was also not afraid to come up and play the run and get dirty and lay a lick on somebody. So, it's a long time coming for John Lynch, but he definitely deserves to be there. Speaking of a long time coming, Drew Pearson. And this guy, the original number 88 for the Dallas Cowboys. And we've seen the lineage over the years with Michael Irvin as well as Dez Bryant. But you look at Drew Pearson and you look at the Dallas Cowboys throughout the 1970s. And if there was a big play to be made in the passing game for Dallas, of course, Roger Staubach was throwing the football, but typically Drew Pearson was on the end of a lot of those receptions. His career was cut short due to an automobile accident, but this is a situation where Drew was one of the best of his era. He's been close so many times, and I'm happy that he finally got in. Bill Nunn was a big-time contributor to the National Football League. You also look at Alan Faneca, the fine guard who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Arizona Cardinals, and the New York Jets. And then last but not least, Tom Flores. Tom Flores is one of the few coaches in the NFL who has had multiple Super Bowl championships. He won one with the Oakland Raiders as well as the LA Raiders. He also coached the Seattle Seahawks. He appeared in the Super Bowl as both a player and a head coach. And you look at it, I mean, Tom Flores should have been in the Hall of Fame a while ago, but it's just a situation where, every other coach that has won multiple Super Bowl championships is in the Hall of Fame. Tom Flores definitely deserved to be there, and now he's getting his just due as he will get into Canton. Looking ahead to next year, I like some names that I'd like to see in there who've been, looked over for a while now. I'm going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers' great L.C. Greenwood. You talk about that steel curtain of the 1970s, And, Joe Green is definitely in the Hall of Fame. We know that. You look at the linebackers with Jack Lambert and Jack Ham. Both of them are there. Mel Blount coming out of that secondary is there. But you look at that defensive line, and L.C. Greenwood was a darn good player, disrupting the pass and run for so many years with that fade steel curtain. Reggie Wayne, the stellar wide receiver who spent his entire career with the Indianapolis Colts. And you talk about a guy that made big plays. Of course, Peyton Manning was throwing him the ball. He played alongside of Marvin Harrison, but Reggie Wayne was ready to go game in and game out on a Sunday basis. Torrey Holt, another stellar wide receiver, of course, another member of that greatest show on turf that was the St. Louis Rams. Of course, they won the Super Bowl at the end of the 1999 NFL season. We've seen several members already from that Rams offense get into Canton. Torrey Holt definitely deserves his opportunity as well. Another former Buccaneer, Rondé Barber. And you look at it, Rondé Barber, some people might want to downplay what they saw him do because he was a cover two guy and we saw the people that played around him. But Rondé Barber, he's in that rare air as far as 20 interceptions and 20 sacks. This was a guy, he was a solid cover corner. He was perfect for that cover two system. He could do it all. And I think definitely he deserves his opportunity. Leslie O'Neal, one of the better pass rushers of his era. He has been overlooked for so long. And I think it's time that he definitely gets more love in regards to getting to Canton. And now I'm going to look at some head coaches. You look at Dan Reeves. We saw Tom Flores get in this year, but you look at Dan Reeves, one of the better coaches of any era in the NFL. He got the Denver Broncos to 3 Super Bowls. He got the Atlanta Falcons to their first Super Bowl appearance as their head coach. And he also got the New York Giants to the playoffs as well. Taking 3 different teams to the playoffs as well as getting 2 different teams to the Super Bowl is definitely something that you don't overlook. And you look at it. Dan Reeves has gotten to 4 Super Bowls. Only other coaches to do that, you're looking at the likes of Chuck Noll. We're talking about Bill Belichick, and we're talking about Marv Levy and Don Shula. All of these guys are in the Hall of Fame. Marty Schottenheimer, I know that he is ill right now, and I've been saying for several years that Marty definitely deserves to be there. I think what is hurting Marty Schottenheimer is his less than stellar playoff record. But if you're talking about you got the Cleveland Browns, Kansas City Chiefs, and San Diego Chargers all to the postseason, I think you definitely deserve to be recognized as one of the better coaches in NFL history. Another guy that continuously gets overlooked is Don Coryell. I keep saying it. You look at the Air Coryell impact for the San Diego Chargers in the 70s and early 80s. Prior to that, he was a head coach of the St. Louis Cardinals. And then you have the likes of John Madden and Joe Gibbs, 2 Hall of Fame head coaches that learned so much from Don Coryell. You look at some of the players that Don Coryell coached who are now in the Hall of Fame. Dan Dierdorf, the outstanding offensive tackle with the Cardinals. Dan Fouts, the quarterback of the San Diego Chargers. And then, of course, Kellen Winslow, the fine tight end, as well as wide receiver Charlie Joyner. So definitely Don Coryell deserves to be there. You look at the impact that he made on offensive football. He was basically 20 years ahead of his time, so to speak, because I guarantee you, if Don Coryell was coaching in the 90s and early 2000s, more people would definitely know who he is. And getting back to the players, Jim Marshall. I talked about this guy because, to play in so many games consistently that he did in the era of football that he did. It was a very, very physical game. Never missed a game. He was going out there for the Cleveland Browns, and then, of course, with the Minnesota Vikings, he was on that famed Purple People Eaters defensive line. Carl Eller is already in the Hall of Fame, as is Alan Page. And for whatever reason, I think it's being held against him that he played with them. But if just for the simple fact that you consistently showed up to play every game and you played at a quality level, I don't think you should be disqualified due to the fact of the people that you played with. But looking ahead to next year, you see it's going to be tough for both Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt because not unless you have a situation where you're talking about Jerry Rice and Randy Moss, are you going to put multiple wide receivers, like 2 or 3, in at the same time. The same can be said for the coaches. I really think it's a positive for Dan Reeves, Marty Schottenheimer, and Don Coryell that Tom Flores got in. So, there's definitely more of a chance of an impact for them to get in next season as well. And, Jim Marshall and L.C. Greenwood, it's one of those where, it comes down to the veteran committee. And how much is the veteran committee going to push for multiple guys? Typically not that much. We'll have to wait and see. Then you look at some of the first-time candidates that you're going to hear about next year. DeMarcus Ware, Andre Johnson, Steve Smith, and Vince Wilfork. And, of course, DeMarcus Ware was one of the better pass rushers to ever play. Of course, he spent the majority of his NFL career with the Dallas Cowboys after he was a first-round pick coming out of Troy. Andre Johnson, a phenomenal wide receiver that, lived up to the hype coming out of the University of Miami, played on a lot of bad Houston Texans teams, but you cannot overlook the numbers that he put up. Steve Smith at wide receiver, of course, one of the toughest wide receivers of his era. He always played with a chip on his shoulder, and that helped him get to the success that he had. And then, of course, Vince Wilfork. He was a problem on that defensive line for the New England Patriots for many years, won multiple Super Bowl titles with the Patriots, and now, will he get the recognition that he deserves? We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure if any of them are going to get in the first time around. I think DeMarcus Ware definitely does have the best opportunity. It's going to be tougher for Andre Johnson and Steve Smith just due to the fact that Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt are right there, and they've been on the ballot for several years, so we'll have to wait and see. Vince Wilfork, it could be 50-50 as far as him getting in on the first time, in my opinion, to Canton, but I think that the committee definitely hit it on the head with their class picks for 2021. It's hard to really argue anybody because they are all deserving. Now it's an opportunity for them to get their gold jackets and start looking ahead to the potential 2022 Hall of Fame class for pro football. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in and subscribing. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There is also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. Take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.